I had just an instructor. I was talking to him last week, and he's asking me to his son. Um, how how do I how do I uh, he asked me make him not feel guilt, right? How do I have him not feel guilt? And I'm trying to, um, and how do I not make him? How do I know by me doing what I'm doing that I'm not just making him to be like me, you know, and that, and I'm not really doing the right thing for the child, but I'm just wanting him to be like me, right? Um, and but these are, think about it, okay? Your son is your son, so whether you like it or not, he's gonna be like you. You know, he's gonna be like you. Here's my dog. He wants to be in there.
he wants to be part of the
Yes.
show.
Okay, good boy. Um,
Perfect example. He wants to be like you, sir.
yeah, yeah. You know that you can't stop that, right? What you can do is channel that, to channel that, right? Um, and and then he's talking about the idea of jealousy, and then not jealousy, the idea of guilt, right? Obviously, he's had his family uh, do a lot of guilt trip on him, so he feels he had to deal with that, and now he doesn't want that negative feeling extended to his child. And my what I said is, what is guilt? Why does somebody feel guilt? Why did you feel guilt? What is guilt? Guilt is the feeling you get when you think you did something wrong. So, how, so should you rid of guilt? No. How do you rid of guilt? Don't do anything wrong.
But isn't it also maybe he's talking about uh there's also guilt from doing something that somebody else wouldn't like your family, your parents, even if you don't think there's anything wrong with it, they think there's something wrong with it. Therefore, they'll, there's guilt related to that. And I think it's more of a question of like, am I guilty? Am I feeling guilty because it's going against my values and principles? Or am I feeling guilty because I'm afraid of disappointing somebody?
Yeah, but what does a child have their
Mhm.
values and principles? What are their values and principles based on? How can they go ahead and decide what they think is, well, it's okay, huh? And then they do.
Mm.
That's not, listen,
Well, that's for an
I
adult, yes.
well, for an adult can think about it, but the child is not going to do that. The child is, he's not thinking, well, no, it's right. No, what he's telling me is not, no. And so I'm going to make them feel bad. And all actually a child thinks about is pleasing their parents.
Hmm.
They want their approval. So of course it's going to be about that. And what is then the element that somebody feels guilt and doesn't want to disappoint another person? It's because they love them. So so it's healthy and correct if a child loves the parents, he did something wrong, and he feels guilty. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. So it's not the goal here to rid your child from feeling guilty. It's how do you deal with when they feel guilty? See, once again, it's a negative emotion. You have to teach them how to deal with that,
Hmm.
right? What does that guilt lead them to do? Does that guilt lead them to lie, right? Or does that guilt lead them to confess? Okay, so I give you an example, right? You tell your child, Okay, you just got these cookies. You tell the kid, look, I'm going to put these cookies in the cookie jar, right? Don't eat it. Okay, don't eat it. Right? I'll tell you when, but until tomorrow, whatever, don't eat it. Okay, so you go to bed. You wake up in the morning, you check the cookie jar, and all the cookies are gone. Right? You ask your child, "Hey, what happened to the cookies?" And he stops, and and they get that blank look on their faces, right? Now, what's their choice? Uh, he says, "I don't know. I don't know why it's empty." Right? I don't know. Right? He lied. Did he feel guilt? Yes, he lied because of his guilt. The other action is, yeah, you know, he said, what happened to the cookies? He says, Dad, look, when I saw those cookies, it looked too good. I know you told me not to eat it, but I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dad. I'll do whatever, whatever you punish me or discipline me, I'll take it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? He knew it was wrong. He disobeyed. He confessed. So, what is the element then is different from one act to the other?
I mean, there's so much in there, like teaching the value of honesty. You know,
I
the
know, but
rewards or virtues of honesty. You know,
what's the motivation? What made one child lie, and what made the other child confess and tell the truth?
well, the guilt,
Guilt. Okay, yes,
but
guilt is what caused both of them to do what they did. But why did one do one lie, and why did the other tell the truth? What attribute does a child need to have? A person need to have in order to do that, to do what's right, tell the truth, or do what's wrong and lie? Isn't it the accepting of the consequences? Isn't it the fear of the consequences which limiting one person from telling the truth and lie and doing wrong, doing two wrongs, and the person who tells the truth, knowing that he did wrong, he's accepting the consequences. So it's out of fear. One is fearful of the consequences. The other, yes, is fearful, but not as much, right? He's stepping up to it. He's accepting it.
and the question is, how do you like if you have the child that lied? How do you shift that behavior so that in the future they do the
Yeah.
opposite? They
Well,
confess.
that's why you got to punish, or excuse me, discipline, because I say punishment is out of hatred, discipline is out of love. That's why that discipline you have to has to be more severe.
It has to be more
So
severe than if they confess and say,
when they confess, when they say that, what are you going to do? There is no really discipline, because the only wrong thing that he did was disobeyed you. Okay, so you could explain that. Okay, what you did is wrong because you disobeyed me, but I'm pleased that you told me the truth, and you would be happy for the kid. No, you would be happy.
Wouldn't you also at least have some sort of form of discipline that's lesser in that scenario?
No, I
Because
don't.
wouldn't they learn? I just need to confess all the time, and I can do whatever I want.
No, 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 that's not true, because what you're going to say is that you disobeyed me, right? And you told me the truth. So I'm going to let it go. But next time you disobey, you're going to get disciplined.
Right.
This discipline is in that systematically for a parent is very important. First, that's why I outline all those things, right? We're just talking about, we're not going through step by step, but you got to do all those things, right? Which is that you have to make sure you never make a threat you cannot keep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you got to keep track how many times they made the mistake. And you got to remember what you told them you're going to do when they made that mistake. You can't forget those things. If you notice, every student, right? I know when I told them, you know, when they did something wrong, and I told them next time you do it, I'm going to do this. I know. I got to remember. When you don't remember that, now your disciplines it doesn't work anymore. Okay. And what you also tell them, I don't discipline right away. Right? I tell them, this is why it's wrong. And that's another thing. You got to explain why it's wrong. You got to give them the information to be able to make the decisions. And that's the other thing we do all the time. Right? Okay. If it's a dog or a pet, you do something, you say no, and you can't explain to them. You just do that. Why do we do that to children, human beings?
So they're
Right?
they're not behaving only because they don't want to get disciplined. They're behaving because they learn the value of what it is
You got to give them knowledge.
Mhm.
You got to give them reason, the ability. How does one use rational thought or reasoning? By knowledge. The more knowledge they have, the better assessment and conclusions they can make. So you need to give them knowledge. So when they did something wrong, you have to explain why it's wrong and let them know. Right? So it takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort.